Hi everyone, it's me, Tim. Today I want to talk about an IP idea that I had for unknown powers. This is Friday Fun Day. I thought I'd throw out another idea that's in my idea book, and it's something that's bugged me for a while, for years actually, that many games that are in the magic or superhero or supernatural game genre, they just explain powers in like mundane, excruciating detail as if your character was born with a manual and just goes, oh, I can fly 60 feet a second or something. And that takes away a lot of the, at least for me, a lot of the mystique and weirdness and non scientificness of what's going on. And I understand why tabletop games have to do this, but computer games don't. The computer can understand exactly what you have without telling you. So that's what I want to talk about. What if you made a game in one of those genres where you have a random power assigned to you when you make a new game, but you can't use it right away. It turns on at after a random time interval, or an event happens to you, and I'll explain all that. And then it only works under certain conditions. So these are things half the game is the player figuring out what their power is and how it works. So what I like about this is it makes it more like real life, and more like a puzzle. Like you weren't born with a manual. You have to figure this out. I think that could be fun. Now let me talk a bit about what I mean by powers and time and events that happen, and then conditions. And then I'll talk about ways that could work. So for powers, you could do all kinds of interesting things. You could have things like the player always does maximum damage with whatever weapon they're using. You could say NPCs always do maximum damage against them. That's kind of a bad thing. Companions always do maximum damage. Your rolls in certain categories are always the highest you could ever get. So you always have a high saving throw. You always make a 2-hit. You always do a dodge. Something like that. Maybe it's more restricted. Like instead of always having max damage, you always have max damage when it's fire. Or every attack you do does additional fire damage. Maybe sometimes damage reflects from you back onto the attacker. So there's a whole wide range of things you can do that just aren't, I throw fireballs, I throw cold bolts. Now you can think of something that triggers the power. So you don't start with it. So after a certain amount of time or a certain event, now the power is available to you. Maybe it is available to you after the first time you kill something in the game, or the first time you score critical, or the first time you ever go underground, or the first time you're using a particular magic item, or the first time you put on a helmet. Maybe that's what makes it so now the power is active. So now you notice something's going on. Maybe also there are conditions under which the power could work. So it just doesn't happen all the time. You just don't go underground, maybe, and now your power's active and you can use it all the time. Maybe it only works at night. Maybe it only works against enemies that are red, although I don't like that because I'm colorblind. Maybe it only works against evil enemies. So you have to figure that out as well. So you start the game, you don't have anything, and then you finally figure out that maybe, you're always doing max damage, or you do max damage, but not all the time, and you're trying to figure out, maybe it's the weapon, maybe it's the target, you're trying to figure it out. So the really cool thing about this is those events and conditions can be combined. So you don't have to have it just be one thing, and that can let you get a lot more combinations of those things. For example, maybe you only get your power after the first time you use a magic item while underground. Maybe it only works at night against evil enemies. So both of those things have to be true. So it might be, it's more of a puzzle to figure out. Maybe in easy mode, it's not combined with conditions, but normal and hard mode, it is. Maybe there's an oracle in the game that can answer your questions about what's my power, or what will trigger it, or under what conditions can I use it. And maybe the oracle either takes money or makes you do quests for them to get those clues. And that way, as the game designer, you can just write down a few clues for every power, for every trigger, for every condition, and that's what the Oracle says. And you can make the Oracle be cheaper or easier quests in easy mode. Maybe there is no Oracle in hard mode. You have to figure it out. I would love it if there was an achievement for figuring it out without using the Oracle. So, you play hard mode and you get an achievement when you figure out your power, or you play easy or normal and you just don't use the Oracle. Now, let's talk about the pros and cons of something like this, because I'm sure you're already thinking of the cons. So let's talk about the pros first. I like this idea as a mechanic because it makes the player's ability itself a puzzle to solve. It is magic. It is a superpower. It is a mystery. It's not some checklist that you read in a manual or, in the game's tutorial. And it's like, oh, I can now shoot fireballs 3 times a day up to 60 feet for 2d6 damage. Or I can fly until my stamina meter runs out up to 60 meters per second until I run out of stamina. You don't get that information. You have to figure it out. I particularly like this because it's replayable. Every time you start a new game, you have no idea what kind of power you're going to get and what will trigger it and what conditions it's usable under. So in addition to all the other ways that you can make a game replayable, you've got that. Because you may go, oh, the best thing to do is to go to this dungeon first. Oh, shoot, my powers don't work underground. Or my powers don't work against undead, and that dungeon is full of undead. So it's interesting because it will create, if you thought non-linear gaming was hard to make a walkthrough, try to make a walkthrough for this game. Now, I understand that a lot of people are immediately not liking it. First of all, as a designer, I can tell you that unless there's a lot of powers and triggering events and conditions to use it, people are just going to explain them all on a forum board or a wiki. They'll probably do it anyway, but at least with the combinations that you can do for events and triggers, you're going to make it a lot harder for people, even if they've read that, to figure out what exact ability they have. But then again, if you make too many events conditions, or they're too hard to figure out, or the intersection is such a rare thing that the power will be almost never usable anyway, that's just going to turn some people off. And they're going to go, great, my character could shoot heat beams from his eyes, but only when it's, within an hour of midnight and all the enemies are wearing pointy hats. Gee, what a great power. I might as well not have one. I can also tell you that there's a lot of people out there that the fact that they didn't get to customize their power and the triggers and the conditions under which it can be used, they just won't want to play this game. It will just turn them off. It's like if they can't customize every last element of their character, they won't want to play. And since that's endemic to the system mechanics of this game, I don't know how to fix that, but maybe one of you can figure it out. And also, let me just point out, this is a system mechanic idea, so it's not really an idea for a whole IP. Since I talk about you have to make setting and then story and then mechanics, I've kind of done the last thing first. This is a mechanic idea, and I think it's really cool, and it could work in Magic, it could work in superhero, it could work in supernatural, horror, all kinds of games like that. But this is a mechanic. You have to figure out that setting and story idea first. But I wanted to throw it out there for Friday Fun Day and tell you guys, have fun with it. I hope this is a interesting thing, and I hope maybe it triggers more ideas in you of maybe similar things you can do for fun that really haven't been explored yet in computer RPGs.